Hello.
Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you okay. Can you hear us?
Great. I wasn't sure if I needed my very dorky headphones on that. Mine are very dorky. It made me feel like a failed airport control officer or something. Like,
Yeah, don't
no,
worry.
that's
hey, can you hear me? Okay, guys, like we really coming in. That landing, it's going to be pretty bumpy. I don't know. Or like NASCAR guy. I don't know.
right. So you're either running the pit in NASCAR, but also, the military use them to call in some really key communications.
Yeah, I think so.
Nothing dorky about that. A lot of really cool people wear them. That's my point.
Well, see, yours look professional. Like you have professional model.
These are professional headphones. Yes.
Yep.
But
I mean, even Zach's look clean and.
I tried.
Yeah, but Zach can barely hear anything we're saying. So like that's
true.
A lot of this episode will be him like
What?
Zach, your earbuds. So
I had wanted to open this show by singing Stan Bush, Fight to Survive, but
you can't. See, that's the thing. You got to be on the fly. You just got to be like, whatever happens. We're talking about dorky headphones, man.
Headphones. But come on, this is our 100th episode.
Oh my God, it is. It is. Wow. I didn't come prepared knowing that.
You should have.
100 episodes. We've been doing this for 100 episodes.
100 episodes, and joining us is Paul London, professional wrestler, brother of Jonathan London from Geekscape. I think Jonathan's very hurt that we didn't have him on first. Sorry.
Yes.
He might be. So he's never been on before?
No, we messed up a little bit. Jonathan, we love Jonathan. Jonathan, we love you. If you're listening to this, Jonathan is the godfather of Geekscape. He keeps everything running, pays all the taxes and bills on time. We have not had Jonathan on. Jonathan was very concerned today that he was like, don't give my brother any of your groaners. And I was like, do you mean my testicles? And he's like, no, your groaners. We're just make fun of you for all the groaners that you say. So I'm going to try not, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to try not to do it. And if I've already done it, then it's too late.
I welcome all groaners. I don't know what they are, but they sound fun.
Okay, that's not a London family thing that you guys are like, you always know about the groaners or don't do the groaners?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, if so, it's news to me. It was one of those times that I clearly wasn't paying attention. I don't know what the hell groaner. It sounds like a long night on the toilet.
It does.
It does. All the noises come out on a long night on the toilet. And so we're really happy to have you here. How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm awake. No bandages on the head. I'm out of the hospital. Ray Jackson, keeping it alive. I had no idea he was even in the sequel. I've never seen the sequel. So
I didn't.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I looked up the cast because I've never seen the sequel as well.
Right.
What? Oh, this is shocking. Zach, I thought you were going to pull it out like you're just going to pull up the VHS right now.
No,
that's normally how this goes, Paul. To be clear.
I was going to pull up interactive cards because I have a Ray Jackson baseball card, courtesy of Phantom Cardboard, and I'm going to be doing that throughout the episode. So for everyone listening, sorry, you'll have to go to our Instagram page and see pictures of the Bloodsport cards.
Well, I mean, this could air as video too, depending on how it goes.
True.
Who knows? But he wasn't playing baseball. I want to be clear to the audience. Ray Jackson was not playing baseball. It was a card of him in Bloodsport.
Yes.
It would be funny if it was also Photoshop that he was. He's super bloody.
The beautiful Donald Gibb, who, funny enough, went to college on a basketball scholarship, and then I think he played football or something at San Diego, but played basketball at University of New Mexico on a scholarship, and then went to transferred to San Diego, where I don't know. I think he's originally from. Oh no, he went to Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks.
Oh wow, he's a Valley kid.
Yeah. So
look at Paul's bringing the heat with the facts already. Look at you.
That's all I've got.
Well, Paul, really quick, I was going to say that Dustin and I first saw you in the ring at a taping of Lucha Underground way back when. And it was, I think, Dustin, was that your first foray into the wrestling world, like actually seeing a live event?
Okay, so let me go back. So I think this was this like 2016, maybe?
Yeah, I believe so.
Right. So we it was my first foray into that. I think we saw the finale or the finale of a certain season.
Well, they taped like 3 episodes. Yeah.
It was the most insane, bloodied mess I have ever encountered. And we were like right in the front row, and the liquid started flying, and I was like, this is like real liquid. These are human bodily fluids. There's like blood, sweat, this could be feces. I don't know. It's flying around, and glass was breaking. It was
it's like a different form of Gallagher.
I mean, yeah. R.I.P. to Gallagher, man. If he was there, he would look like he would look like nothing.
He'd come on and go, where are your garbage bags for your bods? Come on, guys. Who's got garbage bags?
It was a physical feat. It was incredible.
Well, you're talking about the AR Fox match where it was like a hardcore.
Yeah, they pulled out a plate. I was the producer on that match.
You were
something warfare or something match. I can't remember what it was. Him and Kill Shot. Yeah. That was a tremendous match. I actually, there's a GIF of Dustin and I having these looks on our faces, like, oh God, no, that my wife took. It's pretty insane. Those guys in particular are pretty incredible athletes.
So you produced that match?
Yeah, I was originally brought on for season 2, and then I was hurt in an independent match, and so I couldn't really do anything in the ring, and they wanted to bring me on as a backstage agent producer as well, and that helped me get my feet kind of really into what I was doing, because I had never worn the headset, the NASCAR headset, and done all that stuff.
Comes back around.
Yeah, this is coming up here. We need like a camera here, whatever it is. So I was producing a lot of the matches, and then I was also helping with the writing in terms of the storylines. And then I started as an on-camera character and did that. So I was doing kind of double duty for season 3 and 4. And it was fun. It was I definitely prefer that to getting the liquids and stuff thrown on me.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
unless it's watermelon.
Hey guys. Not that Gallagher talks like that, but
he might
have.
I saw something where he was pissed at, like, I got into this weird Carrot Top bunch of interviews not too long ago, like right as I started getting back into wrestling again, because I was having all these kind of issues with performing again.
You're like, I need some inspiration, some prop comedy.
I mean, but it was, I mean, yeah, and so I was listening to these Carrot Top interviews, but it was just because he, for the longest time was just the butt of all jokes, and he was getting just shit on for any reason. But then it was just kind of how he got through a lot of that mentally. So it actually did help a lot listening to him. And I thought he was pretty fascinating. It's not, maybe prop comedy isn't really my thing. But anyways, he was talking about how Gallagher accused him of stealing all his stuff. Like, they were cool at one time, and he was writing a lot of jokes for Gallagher. And then out of the blue, Gallagher was kind of like, you bastard, like, you stole my whole shtick, and like just kind of a big heel turn on him. So
whoa,
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I didn't even know Gallagher had, like, I think a twin brother.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that was, it was crazy.
I think I watched like an Inside Edition or something, and they're like, Gallagher's twin brother speaks out. He never included me in his comedy, and something like that.
Identical twins? Were they both performing, or like he was kind of like, well, that was actually me up there, or was he not? I didn't get the gist of it.
I think he was, I don't know if he was a performer, but I think like he was accusing, they had a falling out too, I believe. And he was accusing his brother of, you know, basically taking his own ideas and applying them or something like that. You know, it's like the person back in the day who's like, I wrote the script, A Liar, Liar. It's right here. See, I wrote this before the movie came out and I'm going to take them to court. And you're like, whoa, yo, Liar, Liar writer speaks out on Inside Edition.
Yeah.
All that random
I was
stuff.
thinking it might be more like the little girl in Pet Sematary, the original Pet Sematary, because she was a twin, and they used both of them to get around child labor timing things. Like, you know, you can only work one amount of hours, so there's like, bring in her twin, and then here's the other one. So
whoa,
yeah.
And all I know is the kid in Pet Sematary, the little
Miko Hughes.
Yeah, Miko Hughes. He was my former teaching partner was his kindergarten teacher.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And he'd be like, I can't come in tomorrow. I'm gonna be on set. My teacher was like,
that's a good Miko Hughes.
Oh, thanks. Because I am Miko Hughes. No.
He's like a really successful beekeeper now, I think.
Is he?
Yeah, his company or something provides a lot of the honey to the greater LA area.
That's rad. That's rad.
I love that little fun fact. How did you learn that fact?
I met him at a convention and he was super cool. And we were talking, and I guess also the cat, like the rocket ship in New Nightmare that he climbs up on top of.
Yeah.
I guess when they were done with production, I don't know if it was someone in his family or just production, but he basically owns that rocket. Like it's in his backyard now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but he's like apparently he's a beekeeper.
It's filled with bees, but it's in his backyard.
Yeah. That would be. Go ahead and climb it.
There's so many nightmares that can be induced from that.
Yeah.
Literally.
I like bees.
So do I. I mean, thank God we have them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Definitely prefer them to wasps.
But right. So are you drinking from a Bloodsport mug, by the way?
I wish. No, okay. It's sadly I just pulled this British mug out.
Oh, okay.
It has my name on it because I'm such a mark for myself. No, but I am wearing a Bruce Lee t-shirt.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's the true inspiration for all of this.
Well, you know, he was an inspiration for apparently a lot of Chong Li's dialogue, and it was kind of reworked and tweaked throughout the movie. But a lot of it is from Enter the Dragon, allegedly. If you go to IMDb with their trivia facts, it says a lot of what Chong Li says is actually what Bruce Lee was saying in Enter the Dragon.
That before he was dubbed, or
this is after. Like the
four things he says, things he says in this movie were inspired by Enter the Dragon.
They were like boards don't hit back or whatever he said that line.
You know? Yeah, that's actually good. That's true. Yeah. Very good. But
so first of all, the fact that second of all, the fact that you're on our show is huge, and it's an honor to have you on.
Third of all.
Third of all now. And also, this being our 100th episode, Dustin, you and I have been doing this for 4 years now. And who would have thought that Bloodsport from 1988 would be our 100th episode? I mean, we kind of figured it would be, but
I know we always said that when we hit 100 episodes, we would stop. So this is catching me really off guard that it's our last episode. So it's even more special. And
because we've already recorded 2 more episodes after this already.
Man, this is incredibly awkward. So, but Martial Arts Madness, in all seriousness, Martial Arts Madness. No, this is really this is every March we devote the entire month to the martial arts films of the 80s. And we are thrilled to have you on, Paul, to discuss 1988's Bloodsport. And yes, and now we must bow. And so what is this film? What is your connection to this film? What does this film mean to you?
Wow. It's I don't know if calling it the Citizen Kane of martial arts films is accurate. I mean,
That's fine.
I started martial arts at a young age. I I wish it was something that I still did every day of my life. But throughout my entire life, martial arts has always been something that I've always gravitated to and always loved. And when I was younger, I'm guessing maybe around this movie came out in what, 88?
88, April of 88.
Yeah, yeah. I probably saw it not too long after when I was around 10. My mom, she was dating a karate man at the time.
Are you karate man?
Like, yeah, well the thing is he looked similar to I'm drawing a blank on his name, but from Bruce Lee's Chinese Connection, the burly guy with the suspenders.
Is it Bob
Oh.
Wall?
I think it was Bob, but was it?
Wow.
No, Bob Wall was Game of Death, right? Maybe it
Yeah.
was Bob Wall. Man, that's embarrassing. But he was this big burly guy, and he was a bodyguard for some old rich lady or something. But he
Whoa.
really introduced me to martial arts that wasn't just karate at the YMCA, Daniel LaRusso style.
Gotta take karate, Mom.
Yeah, learning from a book. And so he really opened up the door for me in terms of exposing me to Bruce Lee, to all these martial arts films, and Bloodsport was definitely one of them. And it stood out to me for so many reasons. I mean, I love Bruce Lee. I think anyone who enjoys martial arts feels the same way. But as a young kid coming up, there's a bit of a disconnect there because you're thinking like, oh, I don't look like him, I don't sound like him, I can't be him. Whereas you see, I guess more of a relatable, as crazy as that seems, that you would think you're relatable to Jean-Claude Van Damme at a young age, but but I think it was just the variety of characters, even though, you know, I guess Enter the Dragon would be kind of the first real big kind of tournament film, even though,
Yeah.
um, but I feel like as though Bloodsport, it was definitely probably my first canon film that I ever saw, um, which really ramped it up in terms of just the the, the characters, just I think just even from the beginning, because you're witnessing just kind of the slight backstory on so many of the characters that you're about to see participating in the whole film.
Yeah.
So you're seeing this monkey guy flying through the tree and like cutting a coconut, and like that was always one of my absolute favorite little clips. Seeing the sumo guy, I mean, if Bloodsport wasn't the inspiration for what became Street Fighter 2, I mean, I know that the Frank Dux character obviously was the inspiration for Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
But if that wasn't the inspiration for Street Fighter 2, I mean, I don't know what else it would have been, because this was really just the variety of characters. I think this was the first real tournament movie that had just all these characters, because even with Enter the Dragon, they were all in uniforms, and the only ones that really were very different were obviously Bolo Young and again I think Bob Wall, right?
Bob Wall, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, with the big scar and stuff. So
and Jim Kelly and John Saxon.
Yeah,
like there was
Jim
5,
Kelly,
right?
Jim Kelly is incredible. Just he was my favorite character in that whole film, actually.
Same.
Yeah, he was. Somewhere I have a Jim Kelly T-shirt, but this was before I got exposed to the blaxploitation stuff that he did later. I mean, this was my first Jim Kelly, but I knew John Saxon from like Nightmare on Elm Street already.
Yeah,
and things like that. But yeah, I was probably 10, and I just loved it. And it was just so quotable. I mean, that's something like we mentioned just in messaging, just how quotable this film is.
You gonna call the cops?
Oh yeah, that. I mean, whoever cast that kid, I can't remember. I saw his name on something, and it was like young Frank or something, and he's obviously French or something. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm
There
holding
he
him
is.
up. Pre Frank Dux.
Yeah, and I didn't know. I thought the kid had like Down syndrome or something at first, and I wasn't sure. Because
Seriously, me too.
He's so yeah. He just has this look on his face, and the way he sounded. I mean, I thought there was something wrong with him, and I didn't quite understand that until later. That it was like, no, they just cast this weird French kid.
Well, it is odd because he's also wearing I know people he's also wearing a San Francisco Giants hat and in a New York Giants football jersey. And Dustin, I want to ask you, being a Giants fan, how offended were you by the fact that he's wearing two different sports teams? But I think maybe, who knows if they were trying to no one's going to notice. They're both Giants. What was your feeling on that?
Well, honestly, I was so distracted by everything else that was happening that was kind of like a minor thing. And I guess, well, before we get into this movie, because I do want to dig in a little bit with all that, and that kid who reminded me of what's his from. He looks a little like the kid from A Bronx Tale. The main guy, what's his name? Lilo Brancato is the actor.
Yes.
But I was so distracted, honestly, by the fact that every character is ADR'd in this movie. And it's so blatant. And I was almost like, so when that happened, I was like, I got to figure out why everyone is why the dialogue is all replaced here. I don't understand this, and why it's so evident. And it comes in so much louder, like the mix is not good. So, so the Giants was almost, it was like a small afterthought. I'm like, oh, he's wearing a Giant, who cares? But it was like, hello, like what's, you're going to call the cut. Like, it was so crazy, everything. I was very fascinated by the audio guys that may have been there or not there. I don't know. Did they get any usable sound at all in real time?
The case for a lot of Canon films, though? That seemed like a lot of Canon films had really,
it was.
I mean, probably dating back to when they did Enter the Ninja, probably 7 years before. What would that have been, like 81 maybe?
Yeah, with Franco Nero.
Yeah, they're having to give him this Texas accent as Cole from Texas, you know what I mean? And
wait, Franco Nero's not from Texas?
Damn it. Yeah.
There's no
I lose
Santa.
again.
They kept Mike Stone's real voice.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, I want to point out too that it seems like the only people that weren't ADR'd were Leah Ayres, right? And like the American, the quote unquote American actors in this movie.
Yeah.
But I don't even know. I feel like they may have ADR'd themselves later, because the line, the mouths don't quite match up sometimes, and I don't know, because it's not just a language thing. Sometimes it's a language thing, right? We want to dub this, but other times I feel like, I don't know, maybe the sound quality is bad. We can't use this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I knew.
I would be surprised if Canon just wanted everyone to ADR anyways, just so that they felt like, we're making big Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
Well,
just get them in.
Parties.
The road that this movie took to get to finally being released, we actually talk about that with Sheldon Lettich. That's going to be our final episode of Martial Arts Madness Month. He talks more about the kind of the road that it got to get there, which is a very interesting story. But, you're saying that you were 10 years old at the time when this came out. I was 12. I saw it in the theater with my mom. It turned me on to karate as well. This and a handful of other movies at the time, Best of the Best and No Retreat, No Surrender, obviously were gateway movies for me. Even I think Best of the Best came out a year later. But that idea of like, I know what you're saying, that as a white kid personally, I could identify more with Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, and obviously not his body. I was like, there's no way I'm going to look like that. Or will I? But man, what a gateway I think this movie was in general for most kids to find martial arts. JCVD gets crapped on all the time from like purists, right? Don the Dragon Wilson, who's a friend of the show, has kind of a love-hate relationship with JCVD. But the bottom line is, this guy brought martial arts to people that might not necessarily be drawn towards it. You gotta tip your cap to the guy that came out here and busted his ass to get to where he is. And whether he's a champion kickboxer or not, the fact that he made it to Hollywood and overcame major obstacles to get to where he is should be acknowledged.
I agree. Absolutely. One of the real pillars of modern day martial arts. I mean, he's on that Mount Rushmore without question.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that, he was dancing in the background of breaking for Cannon, 4 years prior, maybe, or something. Just goofy and not knowing exactly what he was doing. And
giving it his all. Really wanting it.
His all.
Well,
now
No,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say he and Michelle Kesey, Michelle Kesey, who most people know as Tong Po, but he played Paradis in this film. They came out to America together, and Michelle Kesey told a story about how the two of them came to Los Angeles with no money, slept on the beach, robbed a Vaughn's store here on Lincoln, and of like a rotisserie chicken and some tuna fish, just so they could get through the day, and actually were stopped by security when they were leaving, and security didn't arrest them. Like, security got them an opportunity to go to a kickboxing studio and live there, which is where they lived for a while.
Whoa.
Were able to keep the studio clean, and they could stay there overnight. And that's where they got their start. And these two guys, like, how hungry these two guys are,
literally stealing tuna fish.
Yeah. And a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, chicken.
That's the trick.
That's straight out of Michelle Kesey's mouth.
Doesn't that seem a little, I mean, I'm not, a little embellished? Because what security guard, like, how do you get to that point? Like, whoa, you boys stealing this chick. Oh, you know what? You should go to this. You should go live at this kickboxing.
Well, they
take care of it.
There's a kickboxing studio down the street that takes in a wayward kid from Belgium.
Takes in homeless kickboxers.
He told the story a little bit more colorfully than I am. But he did say that they basically were like very apologetic to the guy, and like, look, we're struggling martial artists, we're actors. We just got out to Los Angeles from Belgium, and a flight that they almost didn't make because Van Damme got into security. They thought maybe he had a bomb in his bag because he was so protective over his bag. And the people on the flight attendants on the plane wanted to see his bag, and he was like freaking out about it. And that's a whole other story.
Yeah, where are you getting these stories, by the way? Because
Michelle Kesey.
I think right, but I mean, like, video. Is it his book? Like, what? Can we go? Because we should just tell people to go there instead of having you secondhand tell the stories. Because I mean, it's fine, but we have a limited amount of time.
Yeah, no, I'm just so he did a DVD signing. He did a DVD signing of Lionheart.
Okay.
At this
directed by Sheldon Lettich.
Yep, at the Dark Delicacies in Burbank.
Okay.
And he told this story about how he and Van Damme basically trailblazed their way out here. And thank God they did. Thank God Jean-Claude had a guy in Michelle to kind of keep him, like they had the partnership, the buddies together, and obviously found their way to Cannon, and the rest is history.
Michelle's brother being the big villain in Lionheart as well.
In Lionheart, right? That's right.
The whole thing. So
that is cool.
What blows me away with all that too is that, obviously their trajectories were slightly different. Jean-Claude went on to become the superstar that he is, and Michelle did a lot of behind the scenes stuff, I think, which is, but the fact that they stayed connected for many years, and I think they still are to some degree, but
I'm a huge fan of Kickboxer 2. So
Kickboxer 2 with Sasha
Step by Step.
A young Brian Austin Green. Yeah, because I know that they replaced Michelle Kesey in Kickboxer 4 with another Van Damme friend,
Yes.
Kamel Kripa. The odd prosthetics, he looked like a Halloween costume. But yeah, no, Tong Po is one of those villains that I think will always stand the test of time. But it's really just for those first two films. You go outside of that. Nothing against Batista, but just
No.
not the same. Not the same. So, but
Well,
now
I thought for years
Bloodsport,
that Tong Po was actually not. I thought that that's what he looked like. I did not
there's
know
one
that
of
that
the
was Michelle
credits.
Kesey.
It says Tong Po, and then it says as himself in the credits. I'm not kidding you. I think it's part 2, but it says Tong Po as himself. And you're like, what? What?
Wow.
Yeah,
Indiana Jones as himself.
right.
Yeah.
Was this the first of the canon contract? I think that Jean-Claude had signed.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. That's post Shin Snap.
Yeah, I'm holding up a picture of Paradis.
Wow.
Getting his
so good.
leg snapped.
Looks very different in this movie.
So this would have been, if I'm not mistaken, Bloodsport was, you hear the different stories about Van Damme when he was on Predator and how he apparently got himself fired by just falling down every time they yelled action because he was uncomfortable in the suit and he was worried and this and that. But he had met with Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus, and they had signed a big 3-picture deal. I think that it was like 30,000 per picture, and this was the first one, and he was going to be starring in it. So that's kind of why he sabotaged his Predator role. I mean, that's the story I remember getting.
Yeah.
That it was because of Bloodsport, being the first big. Here you are, you big chance.
Don't mess this up, Golden Boy.
Yeah, we know you're in picture with Schwarzenegger or whatever in Mexico, but it's up to you. We have a big starring role for you here.
Whatever. We have Donald Gibb. Have you seen The Revenge of the Nerds? Have you seen First and 10? Going for Broke? He's terrific. You got to see this.
Forest Whitaker had done Platoon and Fast Times at Ridgemont High by this point.
Yeah, I remember seeing him going, oh, I know that guy in 88, when I didn't have IMDb, obviously.
Yeah.
Thinking, and then recognizing Leah Ayres from The Burning, which my brother forced me to see when I was like, I don't know, 7 years old.
Yep. Yeah. What is Forest Whitaker doing in this movie? Not like what is he doing as an actor like in this movie, but what is his character? What are these guys doing? You know what I mean? I do want to back up real fast because I think a synopsis is really important. Just real quick. Paul, would you feel comfortable giving a synopsis of Bloodsport, like the quick elevator pitch?
A Westerner enters a forbidden underground tournament held in Hong Kong every some odd number of years, and actually becomes the first Westerner to win said tournament against all odds. Where it is not just win or lose, it's fight to the death. It's Bloodsport.
That's a perfect pitch. Thank you. And the only thing I'll add is that it is based on a real life Frank Dux, real life martial artist and liar Frank Dux.
I'm glad you added that
because it came out not too long ago that most of what Frank Dux has said and this entire story is based on a life that nothing can be verified. We don't know if the KUMITE, the actual tournament, if that existed. All of these world records that Frank Dux supposedly held: fastest punch thrown, fastest knockout, fastest kick while dehydrated. All these facts that come up that are not at all verified or real. Really kind of, it doesn't taint the legacy of this movie, but it does make you look at it through a different lens.
Certainly. I mean, the dim mock is real. Let's not use that.
What the hell is a dim mock?
Yeah, dim mac.
Sorry. What the hell is a dim mac? It's my favorite line, by the way.
It's the new burger from McDonald's.
Is the dim mock a real thing?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't know that it literally translates to death touch, but I buy it. I believe it.
Yeah.
I think it's similar to that strike in Hot Rod, where if you hit them just right, they shit their pants. So
Nice
Yes.
reference. Here's our 88 record breaker, by the way.
There you go.
wow.
Does it say on the back what the records are?
No, Phantom Cardboard didn't go that far.
Oh, come on. Phantom Cardboard, we were going to give you a little promo, but now I take it back.
I remember seeing on like the Court TV channel or something. I think, again, I was younger and I was sick and bored, and I was flipping through TV, and the Jean-Claude Van Damme Frank Dux lawsuit was on Court TV, where he was suing him over who had written The Quest, I think.
Oh yeah.
And Frank Dux just, man, he just looked like such a bad car salesman. Like, you know what I mean? And so, and Van Damme was really bringing the tears. I came here from Belgium and lived my dream.
I stole a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, lived in a kickboxing gym thanks to security guard. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, one of his records is most consecutive knockouts, one of his records in quotes, most consecutive knockouts in a single tournament, 56. Now think about how many matches you would have to have.
How many participants?
Yes, right.
500-person tournament.
Right.
Well, and to piggyback on that, Don the Dragon Wilson, I believe, has 74 wins under his belt. He fought 80 some odd matches as a kickboxer. And so I think even on our show last year when he was on, he said something like, it's impossible to have that many victories in such a short period of time. Your body just can't take it.
Consecutive knockouts in a tournament. In one tournament.
All in the same tournament. That's not over the span of 10 years. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, a tournament, a pro wrestling tournament back in the day, NWA or WCW used to have a thing called Running the Gauntlet, where you'd have 3 matches in the course of one evening. And that was unparalleled at the time. Like, wow, this guy's going to go, he's going to run. I think Brian Pillman ran the gauntlet, and I think his final match was with Ric Flair, possibly. I'm forgetting now.
No, that sounds accurate.
But 3 matches in, he was just like winded, and that's insane. And those matches were like 7 or 8 minutes long. So
if that, I mean, probably a little longer even.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I try to turn down any bookings. We're like, we have this all-day tournament idea. If you wanted to make it to the finals, it's like, well, I don't really want to go out in the first round either. But let me check my schedule, guys. I'll get back to you on the tournament.
Really? Oh my God.
Was this what were some of the factors in making this movie so powerful for you? You mentioned kind of the montages of introducing the characters. That was one thing. Van Damme obviously having more of the Anglo look was appealing to you, I guess. I think a lot of people. What else? What were some other factors?
This movie really showed different sides of Hong Kong. I mean, and I thought that was pretty fascinating. I mean, as far as I know, the whole film was shot in Hong Kong, and again, I think Van Damme still has a home there, from what I can tell, just from various posts of his. And I think they went on and shot Double Impact. A lot of his films are shot in Hong Kong. And so this was really kind of one of the first to really show different sides of it. And I thought that was interesting. There's going back to the American agents, I'm trying to think of who hired them I guess they're military correspondents or something, you know what I mean, from the story, just because Frank Dux goes kind of AWOL or something, and leaves the showers without permission. But there's a shot where they're eating at the restaurant, and I always just craved whatever the hell that was. I didn't even know what it was, and
I think it was eel, right?
On it. The dog wasn't even keen on it when he throws him the little dumpling or something. But man, did I want some sort of watery, soupy dumpling of sorts when I would see that scene. But it was just, yeah, you would just see different shots. I thought they really kind of showed different aspects of Hong Kong, which I thought was pretty neat. But it really does boil down to the characters, just the variety of color in this film. You know, and I feel that was an early attraction to me when UFC first started. You know, we're talking like UFC 1 through 5
with like Dan Severn and
yeah, Chemo. I mean, you had you know, in the before, like right before the Gracies kind of blew up.
Yep.
You would have, you know, like Ninja versus Sumo, and you know, there was no rules. You know, guys were getting like punched in the nuts repeatedly and like clinching onto holds, and it was wild, you know. But I have Bloodsport to thank for that, because it was just it was the first real, like, to me, video game movie, you know, just like first real film where you're just enthralled by all these different characters. And I mean it really, you know, leans into the stereotypes really heavily, which as a youngster, even today, is still very comical to me. You know, would a film like Bloodsport be able to get made today? Who knows? You know, I mean, there would be so many different nationalities probably just claiming this and that.
Well, I held it in the same regard as The Warriors. I feel like it's a time capsule movie. You could remake it, but it wouldn't have the same vibe that those movies have. You can't remake The Warriors now, because if you did, it just wouldn't work unless you make it a period piece. But I think we're not going to go there, you know. And in Bloodsport, you could make that a period piece too, but again, you probably have to redefine many of the characters. I don't think Sadiq Hussein or Hassan would be the same. You know, this guy. So,
right.
It just wouldn't translate.
The thing that's so beautiful about Bloodsport is that even for characters that have no dialogue, they still stand out. You know, there are characters in the tournament. Like, I can't remember, there's like the one guy who I could only assume was from France, who was wearing like the blue tights and just was very kind of effeminate, you know what I mean? And Jackson smashes his face in. But these characters stood out to you, and you know, there's the Thai boxing guy who looks like a white guy or an Irish guy or something that traveled to Thailand and learned Muay Thai, has no dialogue, but you know, these characters still stand out. And so I thought that was something that was pretty incredible, was that even for characters who you don't even know who their names are unless you kind of dissect the credits, they still stood out and had such a lasting impression in your mind. It's incredible, you know. And is there a more emulated film than Bloodsport? I mean, sure, you can think, well, Enter the Dragon, but in terms of where martial arts films really started to go, I mean, I feel like there's probably not any more of a copycat film than you know what became after Bloodsport.
It is true. It is a little like Mike Tyson's Punch Out when you kind of frame it that way.
Yeah.
You've got these like villains that are very, you know, almost like caricatures of themselves, and they're from different countries. And that's what
Hussein was missing, was a jewel.
Yeah, exactly.
He had to punch his gold tooth. That was what you beat him. You had to that is gold tooth.
Yeah,
but I mean, even like the janitor, you know, or the maintenance guy, you know, like no dialogue, but even he gets a little bit there where he's chewing on the tooth and he's like wiping the blood. I mean, it's just
true.
It's powerful stuff. You know?
I think for me too, one of the character Victor Lin, played by Ken Siu, he passed away in 2018. Up until that point, I'd only seen a sidekick in martial art or action movies as being like Mickey, right, from Rocky, or someone who maybe was a little bit more imposing to some degree. Either they were more gruff verbally or they physically were imposing. But he was such a sweet kind of guy, but he was a mover and a shaker. And he really was that added element, which I think elevates the movie, brings the comedy in. I think him and Jackson together, those two guys really are what make this. If those characters are out of this movie, it does not have the same appeal.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. You Dukes, you look like a Dukes. Put up your Dukes, right?
And Jackson, at the time, I as a kid, I wanted the Duke looking character in a hero, right? For me, because I grew up playing with G.I. Joes and watching G.I. Joe. And I think that's why Jean-Claude appealed to me so much, because he looked like Duke from the cartoon. But then Jackson was imposing to me as a kid. Now I look back and I'm like, maybe Jackson's my favorite character. Maybe he's the ultimate badass in the whole thing.
He's the heart of the film in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And to go back to kind of the video game comparison, I mean, it's pretty appropriate that that's how they become acquainted with each other, is over a game of Karate Champ. You know, like play Karate Champ at the arcade. Like, that was such a fun game. I loved it, which I guess predates Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and a lot of those games. And
it does. And I think what made that game unique, unlike Yi Ar Kung Fu, where it's a side scroller, was, and I love that game too, but Karate Champ, you could, depending on how you move the controller, was what move you could accomplish, which at the time, I don't remember there being another video game like that personally. And it wasn't until I think Street Fighter came out where if you moved it slightly to the left, right, and then you kind of did a curve with your controller, you could do the move. But at the time, I only knew of like up, down, left, right, and that was it.
AB select start.
Exactly.
Yeah, Karate Champ's not a very fun game. It's very slow, kind of plods along.
But it's a tournament, right?
Right.
It is, but who cares? I don't want to play it. That's all I'm saying. I did want to talk about this idea that Frank Dux, that the character, Paul, you said he went AWOL, and this sort of idea that when you go absent without leave in the military, specifically the Army, what does that mean? And all of it, from what I read, I have not served, but it is all very serious. It is not something, even if you're 15 minutes late to your post, sometimes that's considered a version of AWOL. So the fact that, Frank Dux says, fuck you guys, I'm taking off for this tournament, is incredibly a weighted thing. And thinking about it in terms of Frank Dux lying about this kind of a thing, I don't know if he was lying that he was also in the military or not, but you would say, well, what would the consequences be? And they could range from, everything to just being demoted to, being imprisoned ultimately. And it would seem that this level of AWOL-ness would result in probably imprisonment. I don't know why you would send these two doofuses. Really, these guys were like the least smart, least effective, Army CID officers, played by it's Forest Whitaker and Norman Burton, Helmer and Rollins. Helmer and Rollins show up at the hotel. Jean-Claude gets away, and then they're like, oh man, thwarted. They know where he's staying. Like this is not, it's just this whole thing of like, you're coming back with us, Frank. And he's like, in 2 days, I'll come back.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you're coming back now. And then, once he disarms their taser, they're like, now what do we do? Like, I don't understand what they're doing there. They're not imposing.
Do the Mentos commercial at that point.
The Fresh Maker.
The Mentos commercial is the most infamous. It's probably the best thing to come out of that scene. And that scene, the actual music that's playing during that scene is a romantic song called Steal the Night. I don't know why that's a choice. I would rather have the Mentos song play in the movie, honestly.
I love that song, though. It's a great song.
Steal the Night?
Yeah.
No, it's not a great song.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not. You're like, it was Valentine's Day yesterday. We played it.
No.
It's my romance. It's my moves. No, I don't. We're not talking about the soundtrack. I understand that, but it just feels like when we talk about those two characters, they don't really have a place other than being this sort of comedic, bumbling obstacle for no more than 3 minutes at a time, basically.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. I thought it could have been a neat touch too, had they shown up after they fell into the harbor, just sick as dogs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you would think you would contract some sort of illness falling into that water. So I thought that was a slightly missed bit there, but
well, especially
yeah,
because
they really are the comedic. They really are the comedic bit here. I mean, throughout the film, you think that which one's Helmer, the older one, and then
the older
Rollins
one.
Yeah.
You would think that he's definitely the more seasoned of the two. He's the one that does a lot of the talking, and Rollins seems like a bit more of the hothead, and is quick to jump on the situation and cut to the chase. But you can tell his inexperience kind of shines through here. But it also, I think it didn't just assist the Frank Dux character in giving him some opposition, but it allowed for a lot of the other characters to kind of, I guess mainly Jackson, like that's one of the best scenes when you get to see Jackson risking himself by tackling them both, to help Frank kind of get the jump on getting out of there. And I mean, he gets, one of the best lines in the film where he, lets them know that he's not their pal.
Right. It's the best.
Right.
It is one of he does have the best lines in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's debatable, but that's only because there's so many insanely great lines in
That's
this
true.
film.
That's true. Helmer too is such a tool bag. Like, he reminds me of the guy, if you've ever had a 9-to-5 job where you've had someone who's been there for 20 years who has to train you, when they first show up at Mr. Tanaka's house, and Rollins is like, kind of getting hot, and Helmer's like, Mrs. Tanaka, thank you. Like, this is what you do. Watch me, watch what I do. Thank you for your patience and your time. It's like such like, oh, you're such a cheesehead, and then and then Rollins is like, okay, I guess I got to be like that,
Right. No,
so condescending.
It's good though. It's good stuff. I mean, he's definitely the vet of the two, and just fun, lovable military.
Oh, the buffoonery.
Yeah.
Now, I had no idea that Shidoshi and Hanzo Tanaka was. I had just kind of recently put it together. He was the villain at the very beginning of Temple of Doom.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Who lets Indiana Jones know that he's been
great.
poisoned. Yeah, he was that guy with that rotating table.
Great pull. Yep.
Yeah. And I thought, because
right.
I was like, I know I'd seen him before, and I had seen Temple of Doom before I saw Bloodsport, certainly. So I thought that helped. That helped make that a character that you respected, not just because Frank Dux respected him, but he had a very imposing presence to him, and
that is true.
Well, I think I can speak personally and say that when I saw an actor pop back up from a movie that I recognized him in, i.e. Billy Drago in Invasion USA, and if he was like a villain in a movie, because he was in a semi-decent B movie called like Death Match or Death Game or something like that. It's got like Don Swayze's brother in it, or Don Swayze, and a whole Chad McQueen. It's like the brothers of the sons and everything. And he's like the main villain in that. And I'm like, yeah, but you got your dick blown off in Invasion USA. Like, you're not imposing. So at the time, as a kid, if I saw you in one particular role, but then you had a bigger role in another movie, I'd be like, no, it's not believable for me. I don't get it. Kind of like when I saw Matt Adler in North Shore, and then I see him in Whitewater Summer, and I'm like, yeah, but you're such a nice guy in North Shore. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Letter to the editor.
Kind of just a nerdy friend in Teen Wolf.
Yeah,
Right.
gee.
Adler's great. God, North Shore. That's definitely up there.
That's a whole other. I want to point out Philip Chan, who played the captain of the military. Yes. That guy, he was, I think, the main villain in Double Impact. I believe one of the main villains.
Yeah, you're right.
But he's been in a ton of great movies like Hard Boiled and Super Cop. Just legendary actor. So you see him and you're like, this guy has a gravitas about him. I didn't know those other movies. Obviously, Double Impact hadn't come out yet, but I hadn't seen Super Cop, or I hadn't seen many Jackie Chan movies in '88. Right. And then I see him, I'm like, there's something about that guy. He's so good.
Yeah, they figured, let's give him a stogie and make him a villain in Double Impact. Yeah, no, you're right. That's wow. I mean, his doppelganger seemed almost as though he was the guy who was like, okay, USA. They had a similar.
You lose, American asshole.
I mean, even that guy, just for that one line, just stood out. I mean, anyone who knows martial arts films, you can basically just throw that out there without even having brought up Bloodsport. Okay, USA, and they're going to be like, "Oh my god, I love Bloodsport." You know, like, is it the most quotable martial arts film today? I mean, it very well might. You know.
Definitely.
It's a good question.
I'm just going to say yes.
Well,
I mean, yeah. Even just one line, quotable.
I mean, one guy, Chong Li, has one line or two, well, four, but you say his line, you go, oh, that's Chong Li from Bloodsport.
Right. I mean, we've all pointed at somebody before in our lives and been like, you are next.
Right.
Done the like little.
I break you. Like I break your friend.
Yeah.
I just quickly wanted to say my favorite part of this movie is Leah Ayres, who plays the romantic interest / reporter who's trying so hard to get into the Kumite. She plays Janice Kent. Thank you. She's trying so hard to get into the Kumite, and she's, sleeping with Frank Dux, and she's like, can you, take me in? And he's like, no, I can't take you in. I can't take you into the tournament. And then he goes to the tournament, and then she's there with some random guy that she's gotten in, and she loudly says, this isn't the first time I've had to go undercover to get a story.
Right. And then she proceeds to like pull out the brick recorder in the middle of the tournament and start taking notes.
Like, you're real good at it.
Yeah.
They're too busy watching Chong Li, I guess,
Oh my God. Wait a minute, you're a reporter? No. I was just yelling about something else.
He's good too. That little Weasley Playboy guy,
like the bookie or whatever he is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he takes the money out of the ref's pocket when Frank shows up. He's funny.
Yes.
And he's got those. He has like one exchange with Frank where he's like, "You good? You good? You
good fighter.
You good? Yeah."
I thought it was a neat thing too that they, kept all the fighters kind of in the stands together instead of just
super cool
having them retreat to some backstage locker room. That seemed kind of more typical in film. You kept them all kind of bundled up, and I think that really added to getting them all over in the visual sense that you're like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, again, even if they're not saying anything, you see them. All of them got quite a good amount of screen time, and some of them, get put over more than others. And I also, what I really loved, and I think made the Frank Dux character again so relatable, is he didn't just mow through this tournament, like he faces quite a bit of opposition, especially when he faces the sumo and we were first introduced to that Johnny Cage split punch.
Oh, there he is.
I think that like ribs are broken there, and then he just kind of like farts it off, and he's like, like, oh my god, like what's it gonna take to down this monster, you know? And then you get the beautiful splits punch. So I just thought it was fantastic how they put over so many of these characters.
That's refreshing. You're right. It's refreshing to see the hero not necessarily
be
indestructible.
Best of the Best 3 or 4. I'm not really sure which one it is, but I think Philip Ree directed it and he's the star of it. I don't recall him getting hit a single time in the entire movie. He just mows, and I'm like, what is this? Like, where is what? He's never
garbage.
in peril.
Yeah, and that's why Best of the Best one works so well, because they get their asses handed to them.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, I was also going to point out too, Victor Lin and then Chong Lee's his kind of manager that doesn't say a word through the whole movie, even when he's cheering, you don't even hear it. They didn't ADR his cheers at all. It's all silent. Those are the only two non-fighters, I think, in the audience on those respective sides. I don't think anybody else has like a handler, so to speak.
True. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, good old.
Interesting. Do you have all the cards? Have we seen all of your cards? Have you shown them all?
No. I'm actually so this one I think is very entertaining. Sen Ling, his card is just literally him with his after he got his ass kicked.
Oh, that's funny.
Is he the one that takes the big back bump off of the stage? What a weird stage too, right?
He's in the dirt.
Like an orthopedic bed or something. Like it was
right.
Very strange.
Adjustable. Yeah.
It's a little like Flash Gordon-ish, you know, with the rotate. I was hoping it would rotate with spikes coming out of it, but you know, Paco was another guy who has, you know,
Paco, that's the guy
to him.
Paco's the guy.
You know, Dustin, you brought up the soundtrack. I think we should kind of talk about the soundtrack a little bit, because Steal the Night may not be that great of a song, even though I like it. But Stan Bush's Fight to Survive is without a doubt one of the greatest 80s rock anthems of all time.
Yep. I want to point out, you probably like Steal the Night because it's super repetitive. Steal the Night is said like
Paul, he gives me shit for liking repetitive music. So.
He just like loves super repetitive, like the same thing over and over again for 5 to 6 minutes. He's like, I'm in. Anyway.
Well, I think also credit should be given to Paul Herzog,
of course,
for his just all the other music, and he would go on to do other films. I know he did
Kickboxer
as well, and Kickboxer, and so I thought a lot of that music really added to the atmosphere, you know, especially the real Oriental influenced music. Whenever you know, get introduced to the fighting arena, or you know, flashbacks to training with Shidoshi, which, you know, those flashbacks are great too. I mean, this was one of those kind of montage films that wasn't so much a montage of him training at the actual tournament, but more so that montage of the training prior to all of it, you know. So that was a different look of a montage too, because up until that point, really, we had just had, in my estimation, you know, No Retreat, No Surrender, which is montages for training as you're progressing.
Yeah,
this was all flashback stuff, and I thought that was great.
Which they spent like 20 minutes of the movie doing flashback montages.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, and you see, you know, not just in the training, but just in his character development, where he won over the son too. You know what I mean? By kind of coming to his rescue on the schoolyard, you know, which also has one of the most quotable and oddly racist lines of the film, where he's like, "Beat it, Round Eye." I'm like, Round Eye? That's never have I ever heard that since. You know, it's wow, and I've used that to people.
Does Frank Dux have his script on his chest? Because the son is looking directly at Frank's chest when he talks to him. I'm like, are the lines right there? You got to look at me in the eye. I cannot see your face.
I feel like the directing was a little strange on the eye lines overall.
Yeah, a little bit.
He had his bill on his hat cut off. Is that, I mean, you're wearing your hat's, it's not turned around, is it, Dustin?
No, it's just cut off. It's just cut off the sword. Yep. Yeah, I tried to steal the sword, got the hat cut off, but then later I was presented the sword in a 3-minute long montage flashback.
Lovely.
So worked out.
You gonna call the cops? Sorry,
but,
that's probably one of my favorite lines too.
I feel like the Paul Herzog, I don't know much about him personally, but the fact that his phone stopped ringing and that no one would hire him, he did Bloodsport, he did Kickboxer, he did a movie called Breathing Fire in 1991, and that was it. And then he like sat around and was like, you guys want to hire me for stuff? And no one did. And then he went back to school and became a high school teacher.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Well,
hopefully he taught music.
It's a little like
English and music theater. Yeah, music theory.
Wow. Good for him.
That's right.
I mean, I think about someone like Vince DiCola, who went for a very long stretch until someone, basically, Peter Hackman, a friend of ours, friend of the show, was a big proponent of pushing him forward and like getting him gigs again. And he's successful again now, but there was a long stretch in there where Vince was not composing films after coming off the heels of such a huge hit like Rocky IV and Transformers, albeit had a litany of issues with it. And he talked about that in our interview, but still it's a memorable soundtrack.
Absolutely. No, Vince, wow, you're bringing up some, man. Yeah. That's Vince DiCola and Stan Bush on that Transformers soundtrack as well. Yes. That soundtrack's incredible. But the Rocky IV soundtrack, I mean, who hasn't trained at some point using that music? It's still the most motivating.
Epic.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Instant motivation. I wonder if Stan Bush is the problem. Maybe he's the reason why, like there's the curse of Stan Bush. We should dig deeper into this. If there's a Stan Bush song featured, what became of that composer on said movie?
The Wraith had a good composer, and Stan Bush did a song on that movie too. So,
and what happened to that composer whose name is escaping me? Even though
I don't know, but right? One can assume.
One can assume the phone stopped ringing, because if you work with Stan Bush, the phone stops ringing. I don't know about this theory, guys, but I'm going to push it.
No.
Have y'all interviewed Stan Bush? Have y'all found him as well?
Not yet, period. But that's probably down the road.
Have we looked for him?
I haven't looked.
We should look for him and then be like, why did you end every composer's career?
Well, he's going to be at the Transformer Con, I think, in April in Los Angeles. So
Zach will be there with the scoop.
Paul's brother Jonathan might be there.
Bumblebee.
So the soundtrack to this movie is powerful. I think if you take Stan's vocals out of Fight to Survive, it's still an epically amazing song, because that there is a version online. I think it's on the soundtrack, actually, an extended version. I have the vinyl of Bloodsport.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it's got a gateway or gatefold or whatever, and you open it up, and it's Van Damme and Chong Li. It's a work of art. And then the back is got more art, and I'll post pictures of it on our Instagram. But it is such a, like, we've talked about the Blood Brothers mix on our show before. Go back to our episode about that, by the way, the martial arts music. It's like top 5
martial arts grab bag.
It's martial arts grab bag. Is that the one when we talk about music, or is it
the sports grab bag? Oh, martial arts sound. I don't remember. Anyway, what did we do? Martial arts soundtracks. We don't even remember our own episodes. We were doing this so long, 100 episodes, you guys. We don't even remember our first ones.
100 episodes.
100 episodes. 100.
I just
That's
pulled
more
up
impressive than Frank Dukes' faux resume.
This is proven that we've done 100 episodes and it's real, unlike Frank's.
Right.
Well, they didn't have Wikipedia back then. They didn't have the internet.
It's convenient. No video, no records.
Sheldon Lettich, in a couple weeks, you'll hear the interview with Sheldon Lettich, and he's he has a diplomatic approach to how he describes his relationship with Frank Dux. But you can read between the lines and you realize we've all had friends that, sell you on one thing and don't deliver on the other.
You'll have to ask him. I was at Mystic Museum at some point last year. I want to say it was during one of their exhibits. I don't know if it was just an Evil Dead exhibit or whatnot, but they had a script in a glass case that was, I want to say, for Army of Darkness. It was one of the drafts for Army of Darkness, and his name was on it. And I know that he had done a co-writing with Bruce Campbell earlier. I want to say before Bloodsport, but there's some tie-in there with him and Bruce Campbell and that party there. But
there is. We actually talk a little bit about that with him.
Oh wow! Oh, that's so cool.
A little movie called "Thou Shall Not Kill." ... Except.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Sheldon's one of those guys who's had relationships with so many people in Hollywood. And he's got a good relationship with them. And he talks, well, that's on our Patreon, which everybody should sign up for. Go to our Patreon, $2 late fee Patreon, and sign up because you can hear the $2 6 question segment we did with Sheldon, where he talks about his connection to Quentin Tarantino. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. But you're here, Paul, and I always pull out a couple of facts from the year Bloodsport came out. I want to quickly say 1988. I specifically chose some of these because I knew they would drive Dustin nuts.
They're all wrestling. You're a wrestler, though. I'll allow it.
No, in 1988,
you're professionally.
There's one wrestling one.
Go West came out with their worst song ever. It is called, and here's all the wrestling facts. Right?
No, this is but I think Dustin will appreciate this, and Paul, you may not know why until after I say it, and Dustin can elaborate. But Steve Winwood had a top 10 hit in 1988. It was called "Roll With It." Dustin, are you familiar, or do you appreciate the song "Roll With It"?
I was afraid you were going to bring this up. So my relationship with Steve Winwood, Paul, is that I never really liked his music. And specifically, there was a scene in a movie called Short Time, starring Dabney Coleman, in which Dabney Coleman takes his son Dougie on a ride in his convertible and pulls down the. Maybe he's already taken the top down. I don't know. And Dougie's playing with the radio, and "Roll With It" comes on, and they have this conversation where Dabby's about to change it. He's like, "No, Dad, leave this song on. It's cool. It's real cool." And it's the most cringe. It's just, the kids say cringe. It's like, it's just so cringy. Never liked that song. I think that song is terrible. I will say I later discovered Steve Winwood's 70s stuff, and it's like the best stuff I've ever heard in my life. So it was just some of that 80s stuff that.
What year was that film? That would have been like, what, 89 then?
Short Time.
We can find out, certainly. I don't it's a fun movie, Short Time.
1990.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's even dumber, right? That song had been out for 2 years. Well, let's assume maybe they filmed in 88 or filmed.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
And is that like a road trip movie? I'm not familiar with it. I would like to see it.
No, the premise is that Dabney Coleman is a cop, and he gets his urine results or something get mixed up, and he gets told that he only has like X amount of days to live. So it's called Short Time because he's trying to get everything done, but also he only gets the money for his kid if he dies on the job. So he's taking a lot of risks, comedic risks, as a cop, because he's trying to get killed. Sure. So that his kid gets the money.
Great cast, though. Great cast.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. That scene is the worst scene.
I saw that in the theater with my mom. Matt Frewer, Terry Garr is in that.
Wow.
You should check it out.
Yeah,
And you'll
I haven't heard of it. I'd like to. I think Dabney Coleman. I think of obviously like what Cloak and Dagger. I think.
Yep.
And that was a very special film for me just because it had so much of it in San Antonio, and I felt like I've been there. Like that's crazy. The Riverwalk's scary now.
I've been there. Yeah.
Did you try to jump out of the boat in the Riverwalk? Like
yeah, this old couple was chasing me or like coming after me.
Yep.
And it was
Three
creepy.
Fingers.
Oh,
Yeah.
so disturbing.
I want to know if you guys played the game in 1988. The game Altered Beast came out for the arcade prior to Sega.
Rise from your grave.
Yeah,
that was a fun game.
What
Altered Beast.
Game. Yeah, great game. Absolutely. And like you said, yeah, that was one of the reasons to get the Genesis later.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Offered on Genesis. Yeah, Altered Beast was incredible. I mean, that would have been well after what Castlevania, but a lot of those side-scrolling mystical games, Ghosts and Goblins, and a lot of those games. But yeah, I mean, this was one of those arcade games that you wanted on a home entertainment system for so long, and so when it finally came out, it was pretty awesome.
Yep.
They had it on Game Gear as well.
Yep.
But yeah, Altered Beast, man, that who wouldn't want to be an altered? We're all altered beasts at some time in our life, right?
Who wouldn't want to be an altered
relatable.
beast? That's so good.
Well, speaking of altered beasts, this I do have one wrestling fact. I love to pull out wrestling facts. This was a big one for me in 1988. I don't know about you, Paul, but WrestleMania 4 came out in 1988. But at the same time, the same day, TBS aired Clash of the Champions for free. That was NWA's promotion, where you had teams like the Road Warriors taking on Dusty Rhodes and the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes taking on the Powers of Pain, and with like Ivan Koloff and the Barbarian. And you had Lex Luger and Barry Windham defeating Arn and Tully for the World Tag Team titles. You had Sting taking on Ric Flair for the world title. It was Sting's, basically that was the Ric Flair passing the torch to Sting moment, so to speak, giving the Sting the big rub because he wasn't as big in it. I think he was on his way. He was still somewhat of a not a rookie, so to speak, but he was on his way to becoming a larger than life character. And he took on Ric Flair, I think, in like a 45-minute match.
No, I believe it. I mean, Rick could work with anybody. He was incredible. And at the time, I think Sting still had that kind of white trash rat tail mullet.
He did.
Right.
He did. Surfer Sting with the rat tail.
Yeah, which was it was melded into the action figure because back then, those earlier pre-WCW into WCW figures were kind of more of just the molds that didn't have any articulation whatsoever.
Yep. Those are great figures. I love they were not LJN, but they were pretty badass figures.
Right. But that's such a what a beautiful time in wrestling, because for the most part, everyone still really believed what they were seeing. And you had, again, similar to Bloodsport, you had just these bigger, more colorful characters. Whereas now, sadly, wrestling just looks like different fraternities against each other.
Yeah.
Just there's no magic.
And the ring music that they would come out to was original songs back. Well, not the Midnight Express would come out to the theme from the movie The Midnight Express, and Sting would come out to Search and Destroy by Metallica, I believe, or a Metallica song. Right. Road Warriors would come out to Iron Man by Ozzy Osbourne. That's right. Before licensing took over.
Just the golden era, and this would that have been before the wrestling cartoon, I think, with Hulk Hogan and all those characters?
Rock and Wrestling?
Yeah, I think the Rock and Wrestling, it was probably similar.
Yeah, around the same time, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, how come Jimmy Snuka doesn't have a bigger role in this? Oh, we'll find out about 20 years from now.
Although, going back to Bloodsport, it makes me wonder if Mr. Fuji took inspiration from Chong Li's manager for the Salt in the Eyes.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know that he had done that.
That wasn't his gimmick yet.
Not yet. I mean, I know that he clearly used it years later to help Yokozuna defeat Brett at WrestleMania 9.
Very memorable.
Yeah, but that kind of became his thing, and it makes you wonder if, was Bloodsport one of the first times we have actually seen that kind of underhanded tactic before? The power, even though it wasn't salt. I would love to know what exactly that chemical was that started out as a little pill form. It was just very easy to crush up and caused Frank Dux to kind of have this fisheye lens or Vaseline on the lens. You know what I mean?
Vaseline on his eyes.
Yeah, the dilated pupils. And that was something too that friends and I would do whenever I remember one time going to basketball camp in El Paso, and there was this really heavy rain, and a friend of mine who'd gone to camp with me, like, we were out there kind of playing in the rain, which lended itself more so to like a Cyborg type scene where he's in the rain, but we would always be doing the Frank Dux, like, yelling, and I can only imagine the neighbors. Oh my God, what is wrong with these kids?
That's funny.
But everyone's done that, I think, at some point. If you're a Bloodsport fan, where you might get something in your eye, or even just playing around, where you're just like,
I mean, I did it in the shower. I would do it in the shower after I put shampoo in my hair. I'd be recreating that scene, trying to grab, the soap or the scrub brush or whatever. I can do this. I can go into the Kumite now.
It's so good. Yeah, you just have to think back to when you caught fish with a blindfold on.
Of course, who hasn't tried that?
It's easy now.
Come on.
All hurts.
I mean, nothing beats the image of Jean-Claude Van Damme right after kicking the crap out of Chong Li and winning the entire thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love that they didn't play off of, it would have been so easy for them to rip off something like Karate Kid, see No Retreat, No Surrender, obviously. But so many of the training bits and the character building bits for all the characters. I mean, there was so much originality in Bloodsport. And I think obviously that's why it's been copied still to this day. Is because it was so fresh. It's like, what a fresh film. And you hear the stories about how it really didn't test well at all.
Nope.
And I think this was the case for a few of those canon films that Van Damme started off with. I know the same thing happened with Kickboxer, I believe.
And Cyborg.
And Cyborg, yeah, where he went and apparently edited the whole thing on, re-edited it himself and cut it together himself. And then it became kind of this big hit. But I mean, can you imagine, being in like Times Square or something at the time when this was released and seeing that massive shot of him doing the flying kick to Chong Li?
Right.
That's how films should be marketed,
Yeah.
But I guess times are just not so kind to martial arts genre films, like when was the last time we've seen something like that get that kind of that kind of like a marketing just gussied up like that.
Right.
Well, I think that era is over, unfortunately. Like you said with wrestling, the larger than life colorful characters, the factions that we had back then that looked a certain way, we're never going to have that Chuck, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, JCVD, for like the Four Horsemen or the, what do you call it, Mount Rushmore of action heroes.
Sure.
From that era. But fortunately we still have this film and it stays the test of time. Yeah, there's cheesy moments, but shit, there's cheesy moments with every martial art action movie. And they do not outshine the fact that this movie it checks all the boxes off: montages,
Right.
music, colorful characters, a compelling storyline. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't even matter now. What matters is the fact that it's better than the truth. It's, you know.
I mean, how blown away were you all at the very end when you would get that pause, that little still frame with there, and it would literally have a paragraph of saying how it was claiming to be a true story, and you're just sitting there thinking like, oh my god, my god, what? Oh, that's the perfect film.
I'm sure there's a lot more like that out there that we just don't know about. And I do think that the action stars will come back. I do think we will get that.
I agree.
Get that again.
Okay, good.
I agree.
I appreciate your guys' positivity.
I mean, you know, you look at someone like Scott Adkins, who
He's great.
I'm sure y'all saw the clip of, or his picture for the most recent John Wick, which looks insane. He looks like Colin Farrell's Penguin. Yeah, it's bizarre, right? But you would think, you know, someone kind of like a Scott Adkins could. I mean, that's kind of the closest thing I can think of right now in terms of just bankable martial arts star. But you still, most of his work is straight to video, you know, or DTV or whatever. So it is neat to see him getting a bigger role kind of in a John Wick film. But in terms of, like thinking when will they hype up big action movies like that again? I mean, I guess John Wick would be the closest we'll have. But that's usually going to just be a still shot of Keanu or something. Maybe he's doing guns. I'm not really sure, but that's guns. You know what I mean? Like, we want fists and kicks and the same spin kick from different angles over and over again. I mean, those are the things that make these films so beautiful to watch and stand the test of time.
That's right.
Really do.
It fought to survive and it lived.
It's
really quick. I just want to say the lyrics in Fight to Survive, where he's like, what does he say? He says, perfect timing, tight as a drum. That's a line in the song. I used to think he said perfect hiney, tight as a drum. And I'm like, actually, it still applies.
Funny enough, this was, I believe, the first of, not the bare ass Jean-Claude ass shot, but this would be the first of his showing his ass as he's putting on his manties.
Yes.
You know, after having the evening seducing our favorite reporter undercover.
Yes.
But then I think it would have probably been Lionheart was the first where you get the full ass exposure. And I remember seeing something, I think, where I don't know if it was Sheldon Lettich maybe who might have said it in one of the extras I'd seen on one of the films, probably Lionheart, where he was talking about how, like, what a smart choice that Van Damme knew that he could appeal to both men and women, and kind of tried to kind of make himself this sex symbol. And I'm sure it worked for a long period of time. I mean, I'm sure there's still people that pause that scene.
For sure.
Bloodsport is really the kind of the first little butt exposure. Can't say ass unless it's like totally exposed, you know, which then we would get more of, obviously, Lionheart, Universal Soldier,
more cheek glances.
Glisten. I mean, who credit goes to the who would that be? I guess the makeup department, or maybe just some sad PA who's told, like, you need to go spray his glisten. It needs more glistening.
Glisten,
like, and
ass glisten department.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I want to hear from these people.
Yeah, really.
We need more oil. Menahem's like, I'm on it. Don't worry, I got it.
DVD extras just devoted to butt glistens, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Well, Paul, we got to wrap up, but we could continue to talk about Bloodsport, Jean-Claude Van Damme. We didn't even get a chance to really touch upon some wrestling stories. Maybe we can have you back on to do a little bit of that.
Who needs them?
Who needs them?
Who needs them?
How about some 88 wrestling stories, the heyday, what we loved to watch way back when? But having you on was a pleasure for our 100th episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. Absolute pleasure on my end. I mean, this is my kumite as well, you know, so I'm very honored y'all had me on to speak all things we could on Bloodsport. I mean, just absolutely magnificent film.
Must exit the same way we entered, right? And
one more, just making a face. 1, 2, 3.